Hello and welcome to Workday with Mobile County Commission. You have been provided this because you are a cost center manager, and this would be a useful guide to help you get started. What is a cost center manager in Workday? Currently, there are several responsibilities and also authority that cost center managers have, and the roles are different from where they were in our old legacy system. Some of the responsibilities include review and approve supplier invoices, delegate and reassign tasks. Budget reviews and change requests are such as budget amendments, and reports and personal settings, which will help you maintain and manage your budgets. There are main roles within cost centers, and understanding that will help you understand the needs in your department for your internal controls standing. First, there is either an accountant or a budget manager listed in your cost center. I will show you that soon. That is a county finance team member assigned to assist you. That will be the person that will help you with budget reviews, will help you with budget amendments, and to be able to help you with some of your other needs. Cost center financial analysts are generally those higher up in an agency or department who pull and run financials, who review the budgets, and who make high-level decisions. The cost center managers are the ones that we are talking about in this session. They are the approver of any invoice charges and items in the budget. These are the only role difference between this and the financial analyst is that the financial analyst has no approval access because a manager approves day-to-day activities, while generally an analyst is an overseer. You can have both roles, but you cannot create any kind of budget amendment request or create and approve other items as an analyst. There's also a cost center buyer. If you have access to the system, but you are also not a cost center buyer, you can't approve on behalf of your department or cost center. The cost center buyer has to approve it. This ensures that any kind of procurement that is made has appropriate approvals prior to being submitted to county finance through purchasing for purchasing review. There are other users, as mentioned just a second ago, that can submit budget requests or requisitions or submit supplier invoice requests, but they have no approval authority. This control is in place to ensure that no accidental charging of incorrect cost centers occurs. So it is up to those with approval authorities to know what goes in their budget and what does not. First thing to mention, which seems to cause confusion, is the difference between an invoice request and a supplier invoice. Before I mention this, there were comments in the live training session that someone wanted us to show them how to create a supplier invoice request. That will be in another session, and it will be handled by the accounts payable specialists. Because generally a cost center manager does not do this unless you are a small organization or department that needs someone to create and approve at the same time, which is not generally best practice. So the supplier invoice request is generally what all departments outside of an accounts payable specialist creates. It is basically, just like it states, a request. It can be created by any system user. It has to be approved by a cost center manager. The cost center manager verifies that it belongs to their cost center. It is a valid invoice, and then they know they're taking responsibility for it going against their budget. The next step would be, after the approval from the cost center manager, that the AP specialist will verify that the backup and the supplier and pertinent information is in the file before it can be approved and validated and turned over to be an actual invoice process in the system. An invoice process leads all the way through the financial statements. So this is an actual business process that flows and posts to your budget. So once the AP specialist initiates this automatically after approving the request, if there are any budget checks needed or other kind of initiations or, such as a budget adjustment or amendment is needed, it will go back to the cost center manager and say, okay, you need to make sure you have money in this budget, or you do not have money, you need to request a budget amendment so that we can pay this invoice on your behalf. In other cases, there are additional approvers when necessary, such as insurance approvers, other project process approvers, business asset approvers. This is also to ensure that other areas of financial processes and other kind of compliance issues are addressed. Once all this has been settled and done, it goes to the AP settlement run. This is when it makes it to a check run. And at some point, Treasury gets it, turns it over into a check or an ACH, depending on the supplier. And the file is considered complete. Okay, reviewing and approving supplier invoices. First, you need to verify in your supplier invoice that the transaction and file belong to your cost center. There are some cases where people have many cost centers, or there are items in which your cost center receives for your department, but it doesn't belong to you because you work with multiple departments. I would verify with your budget manager or your accountant in your cost center to verify these things, and also review your budget to see every year what kind of items go through your budget. Verify that backup agrees to your supplier and supplier invoice when someone submits a supplier invoice request. This is important because once you agree to this, AP receives this. And if there are no issues with your budget, it gets pushed through and it gets posted and paid. Timely response on approving supplier invoices is necessary. If you ignore it, that supplier will not get paid. So therefore, everybody knows in the process where these items are, and AP will probably be contacting you to find out why you didn't approve it. If you have issues, we will go over denying, sending back, adding approvers, and all those things. Delegations and reassignments. You can go and delegate a single task, one event that may belong to someone else, or you want someone to kind of, approve on your behalf. There are scheduled delegations, such as a long-term or a few days if you're on vacation out of the office. And just note, just like mentioned here, the mobile app is limited. You can only delegate, I think, one task, not schedule a delegation for more than one task. Reassignments, once we have our HCM system on board, this will be more available. Generally, you can't reassign often because this may mean that roles would need to change if something is going to the wrong place. Budget reviews and change requests, understanding your budget. First, some of you managers had not had hands-on understanding of your budget, or this is the first time you've actually had actual control of your budget. So we are putting these back in your hands, and we're making sure that we're transparent and that you are getting what you need and understanding how your part is very important in this process. Budget amendments. Some of you have been getting several items in and you're saying, why is it asking me to create a budget amendment request? Why am I getting this? How can I create it? When can I create it? And how do I know the status of my request? We will discuss that. Then there's also cost center manager dashboards. There's several features in it, like setting up custom reports. There's a few items standard on it. You also can have custom reports, like I mentioned, and you can save them as favorites. You can filter them so they're easy to access and run. You can schedule report runs, and you can also share reports and share other documents that you have uploaded into the drive and share amongst people within the system without going through email. We will also talk about requesting a community account. That's very helpful. It's like a how-to place or to find answers on questions that you may have. So let's get this started here. I am proxying as someone with only the ability to be a cost center manager to ensure that what is showing here is only what that level of responsibility and that role holds. You may have other items and other roles, but just note that this is only for cost center manager role training. So let's first look at supplier invoice. Let's see right here. In your inbox, it looks like a mailbox. You will see a few examples here. Let's go to the first one at the bottom. This is a supplier invoice. It came to this cost center manager because it is tagged to his cost center, which is 034 Government Plaza. It wants you to confirm, okay, this is cleaning supplies, this is Home Depot. Okay, the amount is $500. Just for tests, this is something else, but if you open it, you can open the document, review it, and say, okay, yes. In most cases, you will have a purchase order attached to here. In this case, it does not. Because there is no purchase order, this was for test. But if there was a purchase order, it would show it in here, and you can click into the line on the purchase order that grabbed this item. Only open lines on purchase orders can be grabbed for invoices. So you are not double paying for an invoice that got submitted. Once it's grabbed, no other invoice in process can grab it again. At this point, you will see steps that are already completed. You will see steps that they're waiting on. Like right now, this person is being waited on to take action. So in this, you can either approve it that you agree it belongs to your budget, that you've received the items if receipt wasn't required, and that knowing it's going to post against your budget. You can send back. Send back if you need AP to edit it and say, okay, tax was not supposed to be on here. Can you please adjust? Or, you know, something may have happened and something got returned and this is not right. It's easier to send it back than it is to deny. Deny entirely stops the process and closes the file. And any other activity has to be recreated from scratch. You can add approvers. Let's say, you know, I agree with this, but I also want someone else to make sure that they see this in case it's something that they need to be aware of. But it also requires that they approve it for it to be paid. You can see here's deny. Deny is the last option. That's probably why it's hidden. So here's an idea. Let's say I think this does not belong to my cost center. I don't think this is right. There will be a list if there are multiple people in here that are in the process prior to you. It will give you the option of what step needs to go back to and what person. So like I want to go back and I want to say, you know, I could say, you know, please check the status of this invoice or whatever, and then do that. But right now, I'm just going to show you approve. You can either go to here, view details, or you can go to your archives. Because once you approve anything or take action on anything in your actions box, you can find it in your archive box. So this is the last item that I took action on. and you can see the process. There's a lengthy process in here on some of these, which some of these are automatic or not necessary or not required. Right now, you can see all the activities there. If you want more details to find out what happens next after this process, because it looks like it's only showing you the history, you can always go click on the supplier invoice link right here. This will pull up that same exact file again. Like you say, I can hide, I can show you the attachments, I can scroll down, I can see the attachment here, I can see the process history here, right here. So I want to go back here. You can, sometimes if you press back, it'll go back there, and sometimes it won't. So let's see right here, overall process. See, when I went there, it went to the supplier invoice that already happened. The overall process will show you, where is it? Everything that's happened. It's the same exact length, really. And like right here, you can view event there as well. Let's see here. When you get a create a budget amendment request, this means that someone either on your behalf or AP received a supplier invoice, and there's not enough money in your budget line to create or to process that invoice. So it's asking you to take action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at that supplier invoice and say, why is it saying that? Okay, $300. And it's needing it in network supplies. Okay. I'm going back to my inbox one more time. And right here, let's see. Create budget amendment request. At some point, you should be able to go view your budget and say, well, why is my budget amendment, why am I being asked for a budget amendment? I don't have $300 in networking supplies. Networking supplies is under information technology. So let me look here under manager budgetary balance. There's multiple reports, but this right here is very helpful. I'm pulling up his cost center. You can do it by name or number. You always choose MCC. That's your only option most times anyway. And you always choose the virtual parent. The virtual parent is more detailed and gives you the more actual level that you need to see. And plan name, you're going to choose the year that you're looking for. Generally the year you're in. If it's at year end, you may be between years. And let's say I want to see everything as of right now. Okay, the issue I have right now is network supplies. Where are you? It's under information technology. You see that that invoice is not pre-encumbered, and it will not, anything will not happen or grab or whatever until that invoice is approved, because it was not part of a purchase order process already. It did not flag it. So it was looking for, I think, $300, and I only have 93. So if you want to look at this time as well in other areas that you think you're going to go over in, it might be a good time now to go ahead and move that. So we're going to go back here and just go back from that to that screen, and we're going to say create request. The only option you have currently in create request is you can start typing in budget in here, or you go to all, and the only one you're able to see right now is budget amendment adjustment. You put a reason in there, such as cannot pay Home Depot bill, unexpected need. And yes, I'm over budget. Yes, I want to adjust my budget. Currently, it's not linked to an actual business process. So custodial, you can say custodial, they'll know what that means. Plaza, if you want to do it like that. It's best to always use the name, because if you choose the wrong number, you don't want someone to accidentally choose the wrong number. That's why we also ask for the requester, because sometimes it's easier to tie if someone accidentally puts in the wrong name. So I'm wanting to move some money. I want to increase that inventory, or not inventory, infotech, wherever it may be. Here it is. And I want to take it from supplies. Most people have quite a bit of supplies, so we'll do supplies. And I want to move, in this case, I only want to move what I need. I don't want to move more. I'm gonna put test because you have to have something. And if you want, you can attach some files, and this will track and keep in your records later that you requested, and this is why you requested it or what it was for. It's very helpful to search later, but it's not required. Okay, you have submitted it. There's a next step in which an accountant has to approve it. Right now, we have several people listed as an accountant, but those are in your cost center as a budget manager, and they will know which cost center they need to grab and handle. If you don't hear anything for a few days, I would reach out, but they already are aware that they're responsible for taking action if it is their budget cost center. So once they create the budget amendment, it will go back to you, and you will be able to close that request. There's a remaining process. So whoever initiated it currently is going to close the request. So here's how you go find out the status of your budget amendment. The easiest way to do it, you can go through your budget on your dashboard and drill down, or you can also look at this report called Find Budget Amendments for Organization. And generally, you're only able to pull up the cost centers that belong to you. You can put more criteria, but as you can see, this is the only required field. You will see any transaction that has happened. Yesterday, this one was created for test so that you can see that there was debits and credits happening inside this cost center, and it was done yesterday, or actually done a couple of days ago, or posted that day. If you want details on it, you can click on it, and it shows you what got debited and what got credited, and any type of attachment. We ask that attachments be attached. The request gets attached here, so you know it relates to your request. That's how you know if it has been done. I would save this report in some way. Let's see. So that now that you know how to approve, deny, add approvers, or send back for revision, and also how to create a budget amendment request and how to find the status of your budget amendment, let's go to the notifications tab. You already know the inboxes for actions. The notification is just to kind of nudge you to let you know, there's a task that needs to be done. The create task budget amendment is required. These things are needed so that there's no holdup. This is also done because this step, since it's not a formal business process initiated, it is more of, instead of it being an actual action item, it is more of a notification that goes to your email or whatever and lets you know that something is held up. But it also will show it on the other side as well. Okay, so I've already created the request. You can put a note in there if you want, or you can say, already submitted request. All right. This just makes sure you don't forget. It stays in your box until you tell it that you went in and created that request and you close that out. So let's go to your dashboard. That is another fun area, and the one that you'll probably use most often once you get comfortable with it. Currently, there are 2 widgets standard. This may change over time, but this is where we are at now. This cost center manager does not have any dashboard setups yet, other than the standard. So in order to change this or make a favorite, go to your edit settings. Currently, everyone has a default of all cost centers because this was a default report. The only report allowed to be displayed is related to your cost centers. So there you go here. And you have to put a year because you might be trying to look at last year or this year, and it doesn't always know which one you want to save to your dashboard. I like year to date because I want to always be able to look in mine and see everything that's happened in real time. So the task has been successful and it updates your data. This is the way you can do that. You can also, I believe there's a way you can do other things inside here. You can click in here. If you had more than one cost center, it would probably show that in here and list them multiple down, and you can see the budgets. If you have more than one budget, you would go to your edit settings and you would add your other one in there as well. But he doesn't have any access, so I can't add that as a second criteria. So we're just gonna leave it. You can drill down on any item that is blue. So right now, this is the balance remaining in this cost center as of today. There are more views. You can play around and you can save your settings however you want. On these widgets, once you leave it'll save exactly where you left it on these 2 items here. Here's another one that people might find useful. The company is always Mobile County Commission. No matter what option it gives you, you're not going to be able to pull anything without having that. And here again, you list your cost centers. Note here that even though it's a checkbox, if it is a box, you can select multiple items in your criteria. If it is a circle, you can only select one item in that criteria. So the period, we're going to do all period, like right now or year to date, because it says month to date, but it actually can be year to date. So if you had many items coming through here, it will show up this way. And it's by spend category, and that's why you're seeing multiple items. You can drill down in here. For instance, let's drill down on this one. Why does it show it twice? As you can see, it shows you every single item that went to that spend category during the accounting period of October. So this is a monthly report. You can click in here and see the pieces. And you could probably find another way. If you view more, you can save filters. I'll show you filters on another one that's very, very popular. So let's wait on that one. But if I do this, I go to a bigger screen. Right now, there's more items to be built in here, but this is what has been customized so far in these reports. It's just a bigger view, especially those that have multiple items in their department. Let's go back to the dashboard. Since these settings are made, here are the common reports. There are some other ones that are created after, and we have them customized and we have them available to you. I'll show you in a little bit. But for instance, let's pull this one up. This is his cost center. And I always look at current because it's great and wonderful. And you'll always know where you're at right now. So as of right now, activity has occurred, and for this month, debits and credits here, and basically all activity that happened in this cost center for this period is here. It is not going to show you budget or anything. It's going to show you actuals by total. You can, like before, you can drill down. One of the cool features about drill down is the more information that we start gathering, the more that you can sort and filter. Let me give you an example here. There are many items in here for supplier invoice. And we know that all these that I just pulled are from supplies expense ledger. Let's say I want to see all supplies by spend category and also by supplier. I think that any field in here, not any field, but most fields in here, you can do a filter by. Let me show you. So I want to have, first I was going to look at supplier, but let's do spend. Spend category is a work tag and supplier. One thing to note is when you do your filters and searches, it is easiest if the filter that you think is going to be very long or lengthy, that you use the left toolbar for, the left sort by. And then the going across be the shorter one. It just makes your view easier. So let's refresh that. So now all that activity on that supply and that ledger line for supplies, we noticed that cleaning supplies is the only activity. If there were others like office supplies and others, it would also break that down. You can see here, Day Paper, Bay Paper, Home Depot, and all that. So that's a very great report to drill down on activity. Create supplier invoice request is here as well. And it's only here because sometimes cost center managers use this feature. It is not all the time, and this would keep from having to have an additional role created for cost center manager. That, as mentioned before, will be in another session with accounts payable. Manager budgetary balance report is one of my favorites because it gives you everything year to date at the budget level. Let's do 23. Just like before, your cost center is what your organization is. Company is always Mobile County. Virtual, when you see virtual, always choose that one. That one's the best, and it has the most filtering abilities and more detail. And then obviously you're going to choose those items with the year. Let's see. Let's do, this is one in which you might want to filter. For instance, let's pull the whole report. This shows you your current budget, anything that's pre-encumbered. Pre-encumbered means those items that are in the process of becoming an encumbrance. When you create or someone else creates a requisition and it goes through and it has, even though it has not turned it into an encumbrance and been approved, it is waiting for an encumbrance to occur, that it's going to go ahead and go offset the budget. So if you do not have any money before or when you're going to make your requisition, this is where it stops you and tells you you don't have a budget. So this would not have been able to post. This right here is when a pre-encumbrance is turned into an encumbrance. It shows you the entire process. Encumbrance means purchase order. These items are line items have a purchase order. And actuals, everything that has been spent. This is a year-to-date report, and we're running it for now. And these are the balances left on your budget. And there, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see that. So let me go back here. Let's go back to the screen. I find it easier sometimes just to go back to the screen. So if I go to Manager Budgetary Balance Report, just so we can start over. And let's see. We're going to go back here and say, okay, I want to save a filter because I only want to see certain items or a certain period in time. Evaluation date's always budget date. Year is here, summary period. Let's say I want to save September's for 22. Let's see, September for 22. Because I just want to save it. Let's save the filter. Just to save it as an example. All right, I don't know why it saved that. Go back here. Let's say you have a filter. I think you can have up to like 10 filters. So that you don't have to recreate the wheel on something you run often or you might want to run to. Pull that in and it will bring you right to where you were. Okay, let's go back to cost center manager stuff. Supplier invoice lines by cost center. You can choose an accounting date start to finish or not. If it's not required, you don't have to. But you have to put your organization in because it's not going to know what you're looking for. It's not going to narrow it down, even though it's not required. It is necessary for a cost center manager to have this because they only have access to certain cost centers. So I want to see only anything that's been paid. But let's say I only want to see things that were paid in October. Accounting date is the period in which it posts in your budget. So this report has been updated recently and it shows a lot of information. It's very helpful and a lot of drill downs. Invoice date, that's the date of the invoice. Posted date, the accounting period and budget period at which it posts. The invoice that you can drill down on. You can drill, specific invoice. Let's say you want to leave the screen up, but you want to go look at that invoice as well. You can always right click and choose See in a new tab. When you do that, it leaves your original tab in place and you can find what you were looking for. One thing to note here as well is you might get calls from suppliers at times wondering the status of their invoice. Has it been paid? Where is it at? If an invoice has in fact been paid, on this activities tab of your invoice, you will see payment date, that the status is complete, and it'll have a transaction reference number and the payment amount against that invoice. Please note that any transaction references, that is a long number that starts with a 1, is an ACH supplier. Transaction references, that is usually a 4 or 5, and it's like 5 or 6 numbers only, is generally a check number. That's how it references it in the system. All right, let's go back here. Note on here, just like with any other screen, when you drill down, you can filter. Let's say I only want to see those invoices from Cintas and for this month. There you go here. That's all you're seeing. The one thing to note here is you can save to a PDF. Let me give an example of a PDF opening. When you do a PDF though, it pulls in everything, not your search or sort criteria. You can also export to Excel if you use Excel. Later on, we will show you possibly in reporting, export to worksheets. Worksheets is a function within Workday that allows you to manipulate data and also refresh data that's saved so that you can collect and analyze data in the way that you need it. That is still being worked on. There's other features and filters here you can try with to see what helps you. But I'm going to go back to the dashboard just for a moment. Expense report payments are really not used right now because those are for employee portion of items, employee expenses. So anytime you see the word expense in a report, it is related to employee benefits or employee costs. Another really good report that most people save is adopted. Type in adopted. This is a custom report that we had built in here called Mobile Actual Budget versus Actual Adopted Adjusted Budget. Let's see. This is very similar to Central Square. Okay, I want to see through October, and I want to see all revenues are not going to show up because it's not part of your budget, but I want to see for the entire year. 2020. Okay, so we're in a new year, aren't we? So I want to see the entire year, and I'm going to save this report so that you're pulling the entire fiscal year, because this is a series start and end date is your fiscal year. Here is up through the period in which you want to pull the information in that fiscal year. So let's say I only want to see operating costs monthly. You go and you find operating. Oh, that ain't gonna work. Master. Well, it isn't gonna work either. Okay. Ledger account summary. Let's see. Master, and let's see, it was in here, operations. That's why I wasn't finding it. Okay, that way I can save this report. You can go and save another one saying I want to see personnel monthly. And you can change that and say summary account personnel. Master personnel will be all your personnel line items brought in. Note that reimbursements is all under one ledger, so you would still have to filter reimbursements out. It is not grabbing in personnel and operating individually. So right now, I only have in personnel budget year-to-date pulled. Budget used, budget balance, year-to-date, current month actuals. This is a current month that you had pulled in the budget. And where we stand right now. Original budget, budget adjustments, very similar to the way it looked in Central Square. There are multiple other reports you can use to find information. Use the word find, and you will see any report that you might be able to use, such as find purchase order line and line splits, find purchase order lines for organization. Let's try this one, for instance. You always choose MCC and you choose your organization, or will not let you see things or find things. You can narrow it down. You can narrow and document down, and I'll just see, this is going to show me any purchase order lines that are open if I leave all open criteria out. Right here shows you every line item that is still open in your purchase orders. There's the purchase order number. These are the descriptions and all the details. If you want to find and open your purchase order, let's open it in a new screen. Right click, see a new tab so that you don't leave your screen, and you can find all the items on your purchase order that was previously approved. You can also see items that were ordered versus received versus invoiced and how that happened. You can find the history. You can find a copy under print runs. You can find a copy of your purchase order. Let's say that the supplier called and says, I don't have that purchase order. I don't know what you're talking about. Even though it was fully paid, the invoice on that purchase order was fully paid. All right. Because like right now, you are looking at one line, goods lines on that purchase order. All right. And it tells you when. Document date is when the purchase order was issued. All right, let's go also into here, into your drive. This is very useful to share information without going through your emails between people, and save it and let people be able to see the information. Let's say I want to, there's an invoice that I received and I don't know why I received it. And I want to find out who, if it belongs to somebody else and I don't have their email outside the system, or I don't know. I just want AP to know about it. You upload it here. You can create folders, you can sort things, and you can share. So once it's in here, you can rename it, you can star it. I mean, there's several things you can do with it. All right, so let's share. I want to share this with AP. I think it belongs to this person based on whatever letter, and you can choose whether they can edit, they can view it, whatever they want. But generally, if it's a PDF, they're not going to edit it. Please check this out. Received and not for my cost center. And now you will see that two people have access to this file, you and that other person. And that other person is going to get a notification in their inbox that you have sent them a document. You can also remove, delete, rename it, whatever you believe, you want to use this for, just like any other local drive or anything like that. Let's go to favorites. Right now, we have custom reports shared with, many. These are all similar, all the custom reports that we have shared. Some you probably don't use, some you probably didn't even know you had. You can extract locations. Let's say, where's the location of this, or where should it go? Extract. I don't know why you would need extract cost centers, but you might if you have multiple. You might be able to extract spend categories. It will let you know where things are being posted or what category they're under. So you can add a favorite report. For instance, that adopted budget, I really think that's a good one. It's not going to be under tasks. It's going to be under custom, because that was one that we brought in. So not the DNU one. So you might want to save that report. Let's save it. All right, I want to save this. So now that you've added a favorite custom report, that tab popped up. It was shared, but now there's favorites. You can manage favorites by many ways. Obviously, going back to here to bring up this report, you can type in manage favorites, or just type in favorites, and it will bring you there too. Manage my procurement favorites. That's a fun task I haven't got into yet. You can also schedule some reports. Let's see, I'm not going to go into detail on this because it also depends on the needs of your organization. So it's very specific, and it's going to involve a little bit of understanding of your budget or understanding your reporting needs. Let's see, schedule. Let's schedule a budget. Let's see. Schedule. Well, let's work schedule. Okay, report. Schedule a report. Yes. Okay, so my save filters. Remember those save filters that we did a minute ago? You can schedule a report based on your save filter. I want to do this, and let's say I want to run this report right now. Okay, you don't have to put in any data, but You can have it delete after so many days so it doesn't keep your stuff expanded. You can say how you want that report. Okay, so it's going to run now. All right, you see how it's completing it? Refresh. If it slows down, just hit refresh. There it goes. Well, that one failed. All right. Could be that I'm limited on here, but that's how you do it. So play with that and play around with that on your reports after you customize it. You'll find ones that you use most often. So let's see. Another thing that we might want to talk about is scheduling and delegating tasks. If you have any actions in your inbox, there is a way to schedule your delegation. This little drop box would have managed my delegations, or in the item itself, if you had an item, in the gears settings, you would be able to see and click on that and say delegate task. Go to there and do that. If, however, you are out of the office, you might need to log in the website to do this. Before you leave, especially on vacation, go ahead and manage it now. For instance, go to manage delegations here on that drop box I just showed you. Let's say I want to start it for tomorrow, and I'm going to be out until next Thursday. And it has to be someone, I believe, in your cost center. And let's see, I don't know. I'm just going to assign it to somebody. I want to assign it to Linda. She's probably a finance stuff over that. Start on my behalf. Right now, we are not going to select any business processes. We're going to choose all business processes. Say vacation, next. You can add files if you want and say why you're doing it. That might be helpful, your time off, whatever. You can look at your current delegation. You can look at the history of your delegation. These are still being defined right now, but this is the process of scheduling a delegation. It is always best. Search for your cost center. Search for your cost center if you want information. It's always best to have more than one person as your cost center manager, or have someone in your cost center on your behalf to take your task if you are the only cost center manager. So like right now, if he was on to go on vacation, he'd only be able to delegate or reassign to these two personnel above him. That's probably why that failed a minute ago. But at the same time, he probably needs a cost center buyer. Just like I mentioned in the slides, there are different roles, and these are the roles that we were talking about. These people have the certain accesses based on their role in this cost center. For instance, the budget manager is Linda Busby. She is the accountant that handles budget requests, that handles other things that are submitted through the system, and any questions you might have on your budget and budget prep information. Financial analysts are those who are able to run reports, analyze reports, just like it says. And cost center manager is the one that has the approval authority on transactions that go through the cost center. So that concludes our first session on cost center manager training. Thank you very much.